How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Deltarune theory. My last one was kind of a joke. I mean, I do think it's possible, but also there's no real evidence for it. This one, on the other hand, actually does have a lot of proof backing it up, and I think it's pretty likely. This is the underwater fountain theory. So there's constant foreshadowing that something is happening underwater, right? Susie and Gerson here both mention a song coming from deep. And Javel mentions that Hell's roar is bubbling from the depths, and I will get into the depths later, but what's pretty important here is that there's a song and something deep underwater. The most interesting instance of this comes from Onion, right? When he says he hears it, and same thing as the other ones, really. But what's important is that he says he's going to go investigate it. And after he says that, yeah, shout out to Gloop here. He kind of gets turned into octopus balls. I talk about some of the same points he does in his theory, but it's really obvious that this bird kind of stopped Onion from doing whatever he was trying to do and turned him into food, which, here you can see Susie eating. He says it's octopus, tastes like onion, and obviously onion is both of those things. So the depths are very clearly related to Gaster and to water. We know this bird is a version of the Goner, which is a Gaster follower, right? So we know he's related to Gaster and works for him in some way. So it's not that crazy to assume that the reason he killed this bird was to do whatever Gaster wanted him to. And right here you can see the original depths image where you make the Goner, right? Goners are obviously Gaster followers, and Gaster's voice is talking to you. So Gaster's there. You can see that it's just edited water. So very related to those two things, right? It's also very clear that Gaster is, in one way or another, the creator of Deltarune. Whether you think it's this whole world or it's just a device, he made it, right? And he's also kind of interacting with it in a few ways. And the question could be, what if this fountain just functions as his base? So my main piece of evidence, right, is in the end of Chapter 5's Weird Route, Chris and Noelle just end up at the bottom of the lake. And I know some people think they're just dead, but the problem with that is then why would it resume in Chapter 7? It would just be such a sudden ending just to continue it anyways. And also, if you're only really seeing things from the soul's point of view, the soul would probably be dead too, right? So I can't see a world where they're just dead, which brings me back to all the points earlier. There's something underwater. What if it's that dark fountain? And what if that's where they're ending up, right? So I think in every route, Chapter 7 is going to be you enter this fountain in the lake. And that's why it says, wait until Chapter 7 for the weird route instead of Chapter 6. Chapter 6 could be, the hospital or the police station or whatever. And then I think Chapter 7, they'll finally make it into the shelter. Chris and Susie, with the help of Noelle, they'll get all the codes they need. And then the shelter will somehow lead them into the underwater fountain. Now, that is kind of the only problem, right, is I'm saying somehow. And, if you wait outside the shelter for a while, you can hear the slowed down Gaster sound effects. So it's like, well, Gaster's working in the shelter. But I'm also saying that he's working underwater in this fountain. So why would he have two bases? I don't know. This is kind of a confusing part. And maybe they're connected. This is something that my sister came up with, actually, is like, if you see the little underwater glass tunnel from Mario Kart, right? Maybe he has something like that. I don't really know, honestly. And it would kind of be a little convoluted if you had two bases and we go to two fountains in one chapter. So I could see this being a little bit of counter evidence, but I don't know. I still think it's very possible. In conclusion, I think that Gaster is working in this fountain underwater, and he obviously doesn't want anyone getting to it. That's why he had his bird follower kill Onion and stop him. And do we know what's going on for sure? No. But I don't think all of this foreshadowing is leading up to nothing. I think there's a dark world down there, and we're going to see it in Chapter 7. Thanks for watching.